Actually, seeing Neil Lawton here, so good to see you not climbing up Everest at the moment, Neil.
Good morning, Michael.
It was interesting. You missed the last talk by Michael Geetson, but one of the things he said actually resonated with one of the things you said when you decided to change your business, stop dealing with Division 2 business and just go for Premier business. And that suddenly made the difference. You say, you still had your products and you still had your team, but you were saying why were you limiting yourselves by dealing with second-rate businesses when you could deal with the top size business? And Michael's changed his identity group by just aiming for the top rate business, and it was say we're talking about courage. That was made a massive step, and it resonated with one of the messages you shared.
No, absolutely. Having the courage and the foresight and determination just to accept some change and go for higher aspirational goals.
Yes.
And believing in yourself and the team.
Very much so. Very much so. Right, we should be having about 30. We've had a couple of late apologies, so I think what we'll do is get going because I'm conscious of everybody's time. We're all very busy. So can I just ask everybody to go onto mute, and then when Steve talks, you're welcome to butt in and ask questions. But there is halfway through there is a discuss session. But the point of this group is that it's about us rather than about the speaker. So it's to discuss the issue. So it's an important topic, leadership, that we are talking today. So having had Michael Geetson talking about the leadership that he had to exercise in transforming and pivoting Identity Group from sales falling off a cliff to suddenly expanding into the stars. Leadership involves many facets. So I came across Steve Middleton, recommended I should listen to Steve's talk, and got involved in him. And we now, as a firm, have got involved with Steve's company. But I was particularly keen that we're having a series of leadership discussions on our BBF topics, and so I thought it would be good to get him along to talk about his 7 C's. Well, he'll explain to you the importance of leadership, and especially now we're all challenged with so many of us having to manage remote teams. The challenges involved in managing remote teams. So it's a really difficult one. So I see Michael's just joined us. So welcome, Michael. We've just been talking about you and talking about Simon Sinek and courage and what you explained to us last time. So if everybody mutes themselves, and then we'll just hand over. I'll mute myself. We use the chat group, and then there'll be after about half an hour, we'll have a explore, discuss session. So Steve, if I can hand over to you and take it away from here.
Great, thanks, Mike, and good morning, everybody. So this is where I work for a technology business, but I need to make to a point where I can share my screen. So here we go. Wonderful. So yes, like Mike mentioned, I'm Steve Middleton. I'm the Senior Business Engagement Manager here at Engagement Multiplier. For those of you that don't know who we are, we work with successful business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, HR professionals all over the world that truly understand the power and impact of having an engaged workforce. And our technology, our platform, provides a very simple structure and a framework for any business globally to measure and improve engagement. And something I just listened to just now is about choosing your audience, something that Neil was in terms of going up those pieces and picking the clients that you want to work with. We're exactly the same. Engagement Multiplier is not for everybody. When we talk about right fit clients, we talk about brave, caring, identifiable owners of growth-focused businesses. They're the ones that ultimately are going to get the most value out of our technology, because I promise you, this isn't your typical tick box employee satisfaction type tool. This is about understanding the truth. What's really going on inside your business. How do your teams really feel about the way your organization is being run? But also it's about unlocking those hidden potential as well. So what ideas have they got about making this a better place to work for us and for our customers? So for today, in terms of today's presentation, what I'm going to focus on, and this is based on the work, I mean, we're working with thousands of clients all over the world. Forgive me, that's my puppy in the background. We've just got to deliver at the door. Yeah, we work with thousands of clients all over the world. We've identified there are 7 key characteristics, which is actually very much in line with the conversation we've had this morning, that we know make high-performing leaders. So I'm going to cover each of those off and why that's important in today's world, because let's remember, in March this year, the world changed forever, and some leaders have chose to continue as they were. Others have managed to maneuver, and they're the ones that are proving most successful. I'm going to help you by providing you access to free tools today to help define whether, you know, how you're performing as a leader, but also how your leadership teams are performing, and whether you are experiencing what we call the leadership perception gap, which I'll explain a little bit more in a moment. But also I'll be sharing with you simple strategies that you can implement immediately to have instant impact in your business. And like Mike mentioned, in between that, we're going to be doing a little bit of a discussion piece, but also we're going to open up the Q&A at the end. So clearly, I want to make sure today is of most value to each and every one of you that are here today. So if you have any questions at all, either raise your hand, and Mike, I'm going to leave that to you to interrupt me, to shout and scream and let me know to stop, or just use the chat or Q&A tabs, and we'll get to those at the very end. So first, love this statement. A business, successful or not, is merely a reflection of the character of its leadership. Never have I seen this proven wrong. Poor leadership, poor performance. Great leadership, you can thrive and achieve really whatever it is that you want to achieve. And in fact, if we look at that a little bit deeper, I'm sure we've all worked within organizations where there has been a negative impact from leaders, and you would have seen, again, here's a number of outcomes that helps to achieve. And let's be honest, it's a horrible place to be. And in fact, where I used to work many years ago, we used to call the business owner the grey cloud of doom. My key role in the business was to keep him out the business and to protect him from everybody else, because whenever I took time out, I'd come back and there'd be less people in the team, because he just had this ability to disengage people. So again, the impact of poor leadership is something we need to be mindful of. But also, and I don't like using the phrase new normal, but it is exactly what it is. This world, we can't predict the future, that remains true. But we do know that it has changed forever. So as leaders, we need to adapt to that. So as a competency, we need to be able to adapt to rapid change consistently, because the world's moving quicker now than it ever has before. We have to be resilient. Resilient teams can overcome most challenges and very quickly. In fact, they know they're coming before they arrive. But also we have to be aware as leaders of the rapid evolution of the employee experience. It's not just business that has changed, but the way in which our teams look at the world has changed. All the evidence that we're getting through the surveys that we're running is telling us that people are now reflecting on their own lives, their own experience, their own purpose, what gets them out of bed in the morning. So we need to be very, very aware of that. And all of this represents changes that leaders now must address. So leadership perception gap, well, what is it? Well, it's very simple. Those of you that are business owners, okay, you'll have a perception on how you're performing right now. Those of you that are managers and leaders, you'll have a perception on how you're performing. And those of you that are reporting into a manager or a leader, you'll have a perception on how they're performing. This is ultimately helping you to identify, well, where's the gap? How do I perceive myself, and how am I being perceived by others? The reality is, if there is a gap, it's that which stops the successful execution of companies' initiatives. So again, and within that, and this is where I really want to help you, what we've done looking at all the evidence we've picked out, because one of the core modules that we measure is leadership. And again, think about the world in which we work. This isn't in the corporate world, the large with hundreds of thousands of employees. That's not our world. We work with businesses which are owner managed. So these are your world, where you have 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, maybe up to 1,000 employees. That's our sweet spot. That's where we have the biggest impact. And we've seen where those qualities are within those leaders. And the good news is there are 7 of them. And these are them here. Courage, credibility, consistency, connection, confidence, caring, commitment. And you'll see at the very top, one that you were talking about earlier about courage, because that's the number one thing that really gets things started. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly now go through each of these. I'm not going to go through it in any real detail. Just know that as a result of today's webinar, I'll be sharing with you a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to see the detail. But I want to really connect you to the impact of each of these different characteristics. So first of all, let's look at courage. Courageous leaders embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, long gone the days of ignorance being a strategy as a business owner. For those that are really thriving, you want to know what those conversations are around the coffee table that you're not currently invited to. And in fact, if we look at courage under the mindset of scarcity and abundance, and we read each of these two lists, I bury my head in the sand and hope problems simply go away. I avoid confrontation. I don't enjoy leading people. It's my way or the highway. It's above getting, I'm above getting feedback from my subordinates. I'm sure we've all worked for business leaders that work exactly in that way. I know I have. I've also seen the impact that that delivers. Whereas when you have a leader who has this abundance mindset, I don't believe ignorance is a strategy. I align difficult decisions with values. I embrace accountability. I'm confident in a crisis. I seek and accept constructive feedback. Now, this is the difference between a scarcity and abundance mindset. And you might see with your own skill sets that you're some of this on the left and some of this on the right. But I'm sure everybody will agree, if we can all act, or if all our leaders acted in that right-hand column, then a lot of challenges, a lot of business issues will simply disappear, and also ultimately a business will become more successful, more productive. And in fact, if we look at the impact of courageous leaders bring energy and excitement to organizations that they lead, increasing engagement, productivity, and performance. This is what it's about. Engagement, I often get frustrated because people think it's still a ring that you put on your finger when you get married or just before you get married. Engagement is something that's significant and has a real impact in a business. This is why Mike has invested in our technology, because he understands the importance of having a team that are collectively striving to achieve that same goal. And in fact, engagement is the number one characteristic, or the number one piece of the jigsaw that impacts productivity and performance in a business, and that's going to drive your profits. And the resulting impact on employees is that I'm confident in my leader because she makes good, fair decisions and is open to receiving honest feedback from employees. And I tell you, it's okay putting this in about honest feedback, but that can really hurt at times. But understanding that that's someone's opinion or someone's perception doesn't mean it's true, but it gives you an opportunity to change that perception and to also reflect as an individual and say, well, actually, is that true? And is there something I can do about it to make myself a better version of myself? Doing that consistently is important. So moving on to credibility. Credible leaders walk the talk. Again, long gone the days of do as I say, not do as I do, okay? In this new world, that would fall very much in that scarcity mindset. And again, if you look over in the abundance mindset, these are the characteristics, these are the skills that represent real high performing leaders. Now, I'm not going to go through each of these in the detail I've just done, but please understand that you'll get a copy of this. And also there's a one-pager PDF that I'm going to share with you that makes this beautifully simple to understand. But again, just looking at these, you'll see that really where we want to be aiming towards as leaders is this abundance mindset. The piece I want to focus on, though, is the impact of credible leaders. The reciprocal energy makes the leader's job easier, makes it an easier business to run. In turn, they and the business becomes more productive, again, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy cycle. Again, we want everybody, no matter whether you've got 5 people or 25 people or 500 people, everybody collectively striving to drive your business forward, rather than you having to pull them up the hill or get them down the river. The resulting employee impact is that my leader motivates me by leading by example and displaying the same standards that she expects from employees. One of the things that I pride myself on is that, I lead by example with my team. Rarely am I not the first person to join a meeting. I always join the meeting the way that I expect them to join the meeting. I'm prepped. I know what we're going to discuss. I know where I can add value. I know where others can add value. How many of you at time would question whether you can say you do exactly the same in every one of your meetings? Because by the way, if you turn up to a meeting in a, crikey, what's this meeting about, guys? Sorry, I'm late. I was just getting a coffee. Well, they're probably going to think, well, I'll go and do the same, or I'll turn up in the same mindset. Lead by example, be a credible leader. Consistency. This is something that I really connect with. One of the reasons for my success in all the industries that I've worked in is I've always kind of had this consistent approach. And something that we were just talking about earlier about when you bring valuable people into your business, one of the reasons why they're so valuable is because they're normally consistent. The reason why they have the relationships and the contacts they have is because they are consistent in the way that they deliver and they have that trust with the client and with the business. So sometimes it takes time to deliver the results, but again, once you get there, it becomes consistent results. So consistent leaders are aligned with the company's purpose and strategy. And again, if we look at this scarcity and abundance mindset, you know, I march to the beat of my own drum. Well, that's fabulous. When you look behind you, is anybody following? Because if they're not, then there's a problem. I prefer to be spontaneous and shoot from the hip when coaching or giving feedback. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs are what we call quick starts, which is great. It's a great skill to have. But sometimes you have to slow that quick start down and think, well, okay, is this just another opportunity for me to shoot from the hip? And do you know what? Throw enough at the wall, some of it will stick. That's not very inspiring for those that are actually having to do the work to follow you as a leader, because you're creating these new initiatives. I focus my team on the things I believe are most important for my career development. Well, that's fabulous for you, but not so great for those in your business. Those of you that own organizations and your purpose is to make you lots of money, that's great. I agree with you. That's a fabulous purpose for you to have internally. But again, not that inspiring for those that are working within your business. But if you have that abundance mindset, you know, the direction I provide is aligned with the company's broader goals. You know, one of the things that you'll hear me talk a lot about, in fact, I've mentioned it a number of times already, is purpose. Something that I'm completely passionate about. At the core of any engaged organization, there has to be an engaged purpose. In fact, we could do a whole other webinar on the subject of purpose. But that's, again, as a leader, you have to be aligned to that, because we want everybody, again, collectively striving to achieve that same goal and understand the importance of their role in doing so. And that's about you as a leader as much as it is about everybody else. I track, measure progress, and I share it with my team. You know, how many times have businesses done a survey, got the results, and you go, can't share this with the team? Well, why not? It's just an alignment of the truth. It doesn't matter what that report says. It's a line in the sand, and all you need to say as a business is, okay, we get it. We're not perfect, but I commit to you that moving forward, we're going to start making progress. And that's one of the things that I talk about with our platform. It's about being honest to those that you work with and understanding, well, where the pit holes are, and just let them know, okay, we can't fix everything straight away, but we're going to make a start. So again, track, measure progress, and share it with the team. Get them connected to where you are as an organization, however bad it is. You know, one of the things that we've seen through lockdown, you know, businesses had to flip immediately. I was speaking to a company over in the States back in March, and as soon as we went to lockdown, they lost 85% of their business. By the end of May, they'd replace that and then some, just by flipping their business and understanding how they can, again, provide value to their audience. And to do that, they had to use their entire teams. Rather than just going, it's okay, guys, don't worry about it. They've gone, guys, we're in a real problem here. We need to find new ways of doing business. And everyone came together, and that's what created that new initiative. And that's what enabled them to thrive through what is a very different world for them now. But let's look at the impact of this. Well, consistent leaders lead a team that delivers consistent results. I mean, how many times have you seen businesses that do this? You know, I'm really proud of that. You know, since we launched Engagement Multiplier in 2015, we've been on this hockey stick curve, this exponential growth curve, consistent even through COVID. In fact, we've had our best year in history. Maybe as part of that is as a result of COVID, because of the importance of what we're doing, but still, even with or without COVID, we would have continued to grow a significant rate this year because we have a consistent approach and we're growing. Confidence. Confident leaders believe outcomes win over inputs. This is about micromanaging. If you don't have confidence in your team, You're going to be shadowing over the top of them. And again, let's remember that back in February this year, you might have had a team of people sat outside your office that you could look over, and you could see immediately when people dipped or whether they're turning up late for work or maybe weren't on their A game. Now we're working remotely, working from home in a different environment. We can't do that anymore. And by the way, anybody can turn up and show their A game on a Zoom meeting for 15 minutes. It's what happens when you put that Zoom down. That's what we've got to encourage. And that comes through confidence. If they're confident in you and they're confident in themselves, you don't need to micromanage them. They'll go ahead and prosper and do what they need to do. Again, at Engagement Multiplier, we don't check in on people. We don't ask them what to do. All we have is accountabilities. Okay, Steve, your accountability this quarter is to achieve that. Go at it. Do you need any support? And that's the way that we run our business. And Joe, what we have a growing team in the UK and the US. There isn't a single person in our business that doesn't hit their accountabilities. In fact, most exceed it because they have the confidence to do so and the tools that they need. And we do not micromanage. In fact, our entire team is still working from home. We haven't been back in the office as one since March. We do a lot together, but we haven't been as one since March. So the impact of a confident leader. Well, leaders' time is spent less on micromanaging and on the day-to-day, more on leading, providing clarity and direction, coaching, developing their teams. Employees' capabilities grow and the business becomes far more self-managing. This is about building that self-managed organization. One of the things that I share of our business is that our founder, sadly, just over 12 months ago, lost his 25-year-old son whilst on holiday. It was a sudden accident. Now, immediately, our founder took 9 months off work. And throughout that 9 months, we continued to grow and thrive. And actually, we were the strongest business we've ever been. I question businesses of our size, small to SME businesses. How many organizations could say that that would be true once you remove the founder or the CEO or the MD or remove yourselves? What impact would that have? Well, when you have a self-managed organization, you can do it. The founder still needs to be there to make the urgent decisions, but you don't need to be in the business on a day-to-day basis. The resulting employee impact is that there is a mutual trust between me and my leader. I'm trusted to get my job done without micromanagement, knowing I can call on my leader support when it's needed. So it's not about just letting go and go at it. It's being there for them to help support them and give them the skills and the support that they need when they need it. Connection. Love this one. Connected leaders have one purpose, one team mindset. Also, connected leaders, they're aware of objectives before they come into the business, or objections or problems before they happen. And again, I won't focus on the scarcity, but if you look at the abundance here, I'm in touch what's really, and I always put the really in here, what's really going on. Not what you perceive to be going, what's really going on through the eyes of employees. I understand my employees' objectives and I relate these to the broader company goals. That is, looking at every employee, do their goals meet that of the organization? Are they going to get something greater than just a paycheck at the end of that month from working in your organization? I communicate the big picture to employees, ensuring that everyone understands how their role contributes. Again, comes back to purpose. Everything relates back to purpose. The business purpose is this. And your contribution, the importance of your role to help us achieve that, so the cog that you turn inside the Swiss watch is this. Are you completely aware? Are you completely clear on what your role is and the importance of your role for helping us as a business to achieve it? Because that gives them accountability, but also gives them, it could be, trying to think of the word, but exciting for the team to know that they're an important part of that organization. And if we look at the impact of connected leaders enjoy strong relationships with team members and open lines of communication, which enables them to know what's going on across the organization without resorting to micromanagement, going back to the previous characteristic. And look at the impact on employees. Well, my leader demonstrates enthusiasm for our purpose and is a strong communicator who keeps employees up to date with progress and news. Again, one of the things that we've seen that in this current climate is that employees are asking questions. They want clear, concise communications, but they want answers, not waffle. They want answers. Because like I said, one of the things that your employees are doing right now, and I promise you this is true. In fact, this is true of 80-something%, I think on a recent stat, they're thinking about what their world's going to look like in 2021. So when the doors reopen, when the world comes and the vaccine is done, okay, and we all go back to a new normality, your employees are going to be thinking, well, is this where I want to be? And that will be based on the communication, the structure, and how they've been supported through what's been clearly a very difficult time. And I know this is difficult for businesses, but the way you're going to thrive through this, and I think it was you, Mark, that just mentioned that you've made some tough business decisions. You've had to get rid of a number of your members that have been with you for 20, 30 years. But now's the time to invest in those that you're keeping, those that are the future of your organization, because they're the ones that are going to help you in 2021 to thrive into the future. And this brings me on to this, caring. Now, we talked about courageous being a key characteristic. For me, just personally, my number one characteristic is caring. Caring leaders believe that when everybody grows, everybody wins. But also, if I know that my leader cares about me, I'm going to care about them and what they're looking to achieve. Therefore, I'm going to work harder to enable them to achieve that. So to build productivity, to get your teams connected to what we're looking to achieve as a business, this is not about ticking a box. This is about being genuine, particularly with those that are critical in your business. And I don't mean you have to know their husbands or wives or children's names. It's just to know that you care about them as an individual, and again, that they're important. So look at that abundance mindset. You know, I'm sensitive, I'm efficient when dealing with business issues that impact the employee. You know, my wages didn't go into my bank account today, boss. Don't worry, they'll be there in 3-4 days' time. That's not good enough. They've put the work in for that 30 days, pay them on time, not three, just because it doesn't matter to you, that really matters to them. You know, and that's not so much a mistake these, but that used to happen when people were paid by check, you know, great. So think about the impact that your decisions are having on the employee. I see people as individuals, not commodity. You know, it's true to say your employees are probably your biggest outlay, your biggest, expense every month. And I used to have a boss that used to say, my employees are stealing from me. They're not, you're paying them for a job well done. You know, they're not stealing from you. Yes, it's coming out your back pocket and the profits of the business, but you're not going to have those profits if they hadn't done what they'd done in the first place. So just, it's about the mindset. And again, if we look at the impact of this caring piece, by creating an environment that encourages cooperation and helping others, caring leaders develop their people continually, raising the bar on their team skills, and everybody wins. We have a saying here at Engagement Multiplier that if you choose to leave us, and we've lost a few, you leave a better, more skilled individual than when you came. That's what we do. And, you know, there's a number of, in fact, I had a message this weekend from a guy called another Stefan that joined us only earlier this year, where he decided he wanted to go off and be a teacher. He's just got qualified last week, and he's absolutely delighted. We've, you know, even though he was with us for a short period of time, we funded that education because we cared about him. And as a result of that, by the way, he's brought us 3 clients since he's left, and he's introduced another member of staff that's now working for us. So even when just having these people in your business and demonstrate you care, they will work harder for you. Even if when they're not working for you, they'll still think of you. And again, you know, my leader treats me as a valued team member and actively seeks to help my personal development, which is what, again, caring is all about. And the final C, commitment. Committed leaders are focused on the future. You know, we talk about blue sky thinking. We need to simplify that for our employees and help them understand, well, this is where we are today, team. This is what we're going to do today, but this is where we're aiming for. Because that's exciting. It gives you something to be part of, but it also gives the employee an opportunity to be able to structure that future. Well, what does that look like? Have I got any ideas, any insights that are going to help us to get there quicker? Because if you've got the employees thinking about the future as well, you know, then you've got everybody again collectively striving to drive those improvements. So look at that abundance mindset. I'm fully invested in the business department and team. I focus intentionally on the future, making improvements and communications, ongoing plans. Again, you know, if we look at this current market, those that in March chose, we're just going to ride the storm. Well, it's been one hell of a storm because we're 9 months in and it's still here, still swirling away. And the problem is that if they haven't pivoted or changed or made those decisions, then they're probably too late. There'll be others in their market that would have exceeded those. This is one of the reasons why I love working with small businesses, because you have the ability to be disruptive, make decisions quicker and make those changes, where the larger organizations, the battleships out there, they take longer to turn and to adjust. So again, that commitment piece is really important. I'm constantly willing to go above and beyond in order to help the business and the individuals to thrive. Just because it's 5:30 and you're finished for the day, you might have other team members that aren't yet finished or that need your support, and that's critical to their role. So again, just be open and aware and ready to support. So look at the impact of committed leaders. We'll focus on the future and committed to the company and its employees. Committed leaders inspire loyalty and confidence from employees who themselves become more personally invested in the company's success. And let's look at the impact that that has on employees. My leader inspires confidence in me by demonstrating that her commitment to the future success of the business. So the 7 C's. These are the 7 C's. I've never met a business leader yet that is nailing every one of these characteristics. If you're that one individual, let me know. I'll come and spend a week with you, socially distanced, of course, and wearing a mask, but I want to see what you're doing and how you're doing it. There's normally an area that we can all improve. And I definitely got 3 or 4 that I'm working on right now as a leader in our business. So I think this is probably a good time, Mike, to bring everyone in just for an open discussion. First of all, about that, I'll leave those 7 up as a prompt, but just to talk through those. And Mike, if you want to lead that.
Yes, certainly. I was going to say leave those up because I think they're the key. I mean, I think I always remember Tony Blair, I think it was, saying leadership is a lonely position, and leadership is not a popularity contest. But you're quite clearly saying, look, we have to be engaging and we have to show that we're caring. And so you were saying, to your mind, caring is far more important, the most important of all the 7s. I'd just be interested because, so Mark was sharing with earlier, he's had to lose £1 million worth of payroll costs this year in terms of reorganizing his motor dealership group. We heard from last month, we heard from Michael Geetson how the change that he's had to make. And I know David Wise is on the call today, has had to make massive changes. Perhaps, guys, you want to share your thoughts on that? Mark, would you like to start with your thoughts?
You're on mute, Mark.
Hi. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, extremely difficult thing to do, difficult decision to come to, but it was obviously for the survival and the future of the business, really. To engage with everybody, and there were certain areas that obviously I engaged personally with because they're being long-term employees, and to get the feedback, and it was extremely difficult to do, but I think everybody sort of understood in the current situation that things had to change, but it still didn't make it easy, because I believe I care about the staff. I mean, I've been with the company for so long, and a lot of people have known me for so long, so hopefully their trust in me that, because obviously there was other fallout from other departments because we had to make those decisions, and there's some ill feeling towards the company as a result of those decisions, and we've had to sort of engage with those individuals to try and make sure that they're okay. But it was one of those awful necessary evils.
Yeah.
And we really couldn't dodge it, and we had to just tackle it.
So you had to show courage in terms of with your leadership team to come to those decisions, and then you had to show empathy and caring in terms of dealing with the individuals. What do you think? If you were to just look back, and I'm not asking you to puff up your chest or anything, but what do you think, if we're looking at those 7 C's to your mind in terms of leadership, what do you think are the most important?
Well, I do believe caring. I mean, in the last 24 hours, I've had 3 conversations with 3 employees that want to talk to me, and you have to be open and engaging. So you need to care about your people. I had a conversation yesterday about just someone with an illness, and you said, for God's sake, we're not going to put him on SSP. We're going to look after him. So you just need to look after people.
Yeah.
And that's got to be the ethos of the whole company. And when people are in hardship, because there are plenty of them at this point in time, they're part of your team, part of your family, and you need to care about those individuals. So I mean, the first one there was courage. In truth, we as a board had the courage to do what we needed to do. That was important. I think we failed a little bit through the lockdown on the connection. I was sending out emails to the staff, but I know a lot of the team weren't, in effect, connecting with their staff enough, so they felt lost. So yeah, I would say the courage and caring are the two things that are the most important at the moment, and obviously I think the commitment to making it work.
Yeah.
So, but there were certainly things in there that I know that I'm not failing on, but need to work on.
Okay, that's interesting. Michael Geetson, so having heard what you did on the identity group, what are your thoughts on what we just heard? Michael?
Drive on multiple screens and hiding my mute button ever. Oh, I love listening to these things. I just, whether you agree with everything or some of it, it's the nuggets that you take away. So, yeah, I don't know if there's a specific thing you wanted me to kind of.
Well, no, I mean, I think you showed clearly courage came through in terms of having to make some crucial decisions. But from your point of view, you asked everybody to take a 20% pay cut immediately. You said that was right, drag them on and just say, look, we're in this together. We've got to find a way out of it. So you showed their empathy and connection in that. But so I was just interested. I think courage clearly is a big issue. But if you were to say, well, looking at what you've done, the way you've pivoted successfully, you've certainly, I think one of the big things I took was the fact you'd invested up front into a quality team that allowed you to actually have the skill sets to be able to think together about the way forward. But
yeah, and there were several things that Steve said that resonated with me. But there may be great leadership, and you think very shortly as your business starts to grow, it cascades down to your middle management that are overseeing the teams, and therefore you get the dilution of the message. It's all just a little bit less glossy than what it is coming from yourself. And I think they're one of the challenges. And I think you spoke about accountability for people. I'm giving you this task, right? So that's yours. You're accountable for this, etc. The problem that we have is in a fast-growing business, it's just a shed load of things to delegate down, and you try and think about what the one thing is, but actually there's always 3 or 4. You multiply that by 12 managers, and all of a sudden we've got 48 things that we're trying to keep everybody accountable for. And I think it's just an honest admission that that's the real struggle. And I love listening. I'm a big believer of the one thing, and I always talk to the team about, what is your one thing to get on with. But the reality is that there's little grenades coming in left, right, and center. And I think that's just that's my own admission over the years. It's been the hardest thing is to just keep the momentum and everything on track and be consistent then, because I said this was the really important thing this week, and 2 weeks later, it doesn't feel like it's the most important thing.
Yeah. That's really interesting. David Wise, what about you? Because you've put you on the spot. You've also had to deal with massive change and how you're embracing it.
I'm not sure I'm embracing it particularly well, but yes, I was surprised at, I took on all the HR function of the transition. I had to get rid of 60% of my workforce, one way or the other. I decided to take it on myself to show that this was a leadership thing, and I thought it was too significant to delegate. I was incredibly touched by the response of every person I contacted, understanding the impact on their future lives. And we communicate. One of our drivers is we would like to have everybody back, even the crazy ones, even the ones that make you scream into a box on a Friday evening. We want everybody back, and that's been a communicated driver. I was less impressed with some of the lack of flexibility. Certainly, what's come out of the last 3 months, and Steve's and also Michael have nailed it, is this capability for rapid change, focusing on what the customer now needs, and is now changing that need on a weekly basis. and we have to embrace it. The understanding. We asked who pays our salaries, and it's not accounts. It's not the accounts department. It's our customers, who are also frustrated, who are also in fear of X and Y and Z. And we've got to really figure what that means to us as a preferred supplier.
Yeah, it's so true, David. Well said. I think that's really good. I think before I open it to everybody, can I just ask Neil Lawton to talk about it from a military perspective? I know you're a business perspective now, but embracing your military background and then into business, how would you comment about what we just heard?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Well, it's a while since I was in the military, but I think probably the best way to say is the old military didn't have many of these 7 Cs, but probably the modern military is getting up to speed with it. And I can't argue with 7 Cs that Steve has taken a look at this morning. I'd probably add a couple of extras. The first would be competence. For me, a leader in any organization has to have competence, the acquired skills and knowledge, experience, etc., in order to lead confidently. And curiosity is also a good C for me. Having curiosity kind of blends it with some of the 7 Cs there, but for me, curiosity is about never-ending pursuit of excellence, and which incidentally is a sort of special forces.
Can you shut the door, please?
Oops.
And the last thing I'd say is that I am aware of Engagement Multiplier. It's a great organization. It's a great tool. And in fact, leaders need to, in order to get on board with this, have to be enlightened, and they have to show courage in order to open themselves up to that feedback that the system brings to it. So hopefully that's a reasonable answer for you.
I think that's really good. I mean, we're all living it in our own way, and I think sometimes it can be your colleagues, not necessarily your team. We're all a team, but sometimes it can be your colleagues who just pay lip service to this thing, and it's the sum of all of us, and so sometimes leaders are have to face up to being quite blunt, to being quite firm with their own colleagues about some of the issues with your own management team, because I see there's this ability, referring to some people as world champions of being able to bury their heads in the sand. We just have to make people aware of it, because there is no space for burying your head in the sand now. Everybody has to be accountable. Everybody has to stand up and has to take their role. And I really feel for what David Wise just said, that the people who pay our wages are our clients. We have to be focused on our clients. And it frustrates me to death, but it is a reality where everybody is actually focused in their own naval base into what they're doing, and that's what they see what they're doing, because that's the same old, and we have to change the mindset. So as leaders, we have to get everybody thinking about the new reality, which has always been the old reality, but it's really staring us in the face, because we've heard about just the previous 4 people talking about the difficult decisions they've had to make, and how they've had to lose, in David's case, 60%, in Mark's case, £1 million off payroll. And it's all these different things. You have to show the caring, but it's just, to me, sometimes that people will carry on unless they are faced with the brutality. I had to share a message with my team last night and say that we have to realize, however tough it is, and it is really tough out there, that just think of the people who would love to be in our position. We have to put stuff into perspective, that however tough it is, we've actually got a job. We are actually taking wages home, and there's loads of people, and the carnage, I don't think, has even started. With what's happening in the retail industry, like we've seen in the airline, we're actually seeing captains, pilots taking jobs as undertakers because they've got no other work. And so it's massive carnage out there, and people, they're worried about their workload. I just say, come on, give me a break. Understand the reality of where we are. It is a reality. Yes, it is tough, but we as leaders have to show caring and understanding, but make sure that we're in showing that empathy. We're actually saying, look, this is the reality. It is all about the people who are paying our wages. It's really important.
Mike,
Anything else?
can
Sorry,
I-
Sarah. Yes. Go on, Sarah.
Oh, we've lost you, Sarah.
First of all, I just want to apologise that I was off mute when I was paused to see, but you just mentioned the word perspective around values and what have you in a business. But I was also on the back of Mark's comment. I wanted to ask Steve, you were talking about scarce mentality and abundant mentality. And my understanding of it is those of us who share an abundant mentality, we believe the only way anybody can really win is if the result is win-win, that the scenario win-lose never works. Do you think that even in Mark's case, when you could hear the emotion in his voice, sharing the story of what he's been through with the business, and I'm sure reflecting for many how difficult that was, do you think that perhaps underpinning all of that, if there's a business shared the values that you talked about, and I love all the C's, and abundant mentality where we are thinking win-win, whilst those, let's say, losing their jobs wouldn't feel they'd won now, do you think with those values in their rucksacks of abundant mentality that they might ultimately win further down the line, i.e. take those values and win an interview for another job or be inspired to set up their own business? So in other words, the win-win may not be immediate, but do you believe in abundant mentality that ultimately they've got a better chance, for example, of a win-win than the win-lose scenario, which generally sits with scarce mentality?
Sarah, I'm so pleased you asked that question because I wrote down a couple of notes whilst everyone has contributed, actually. And one of the things that, yes, this has been a very difficult time. We've talked about mindset as a leader, but clearly at the same time, we've had to make some very tough business decisions around people that we do care about, people that have helped us to grow and get us to where we are as a business right now. And they might see it as a kick in the teeth, the fact you've gone, thanks very much, but you now need to go. Because you've had to prioritize and you've had to take £1 million off your wages bill. You've had to reduce your workforce by 60%, whatever it is. Now, one of the things that one of our clients did, which I found, which I thought was amazing, is that they had a similar situation where they had to, it was about 60-70% of their workforce that went. One of their team stood up and went, look, I've got nowhere to go. My background's recruitment. I'm going to make it my role in the business because I care about the business and I care about the people, to find every single body else a job as a result of this. And they sat with them, they sat down with them, went through their skills, went through what they obviously, as a business, we said the reason why, and as a business, they went out and promoted their employees to the world, to people they knew, went, you need to take this person on because they're ideal for you. They've worked for us for 6 years. This is the skill set that they have. Now, I think as a result of that, because I was speaking to them only a couple of weeks ago, nearly 80% of that team are now re-employed as a result of that process. Now, think of that mindset that David has, I want everybody back. How many of that 80% do you think, given the opportunity to come back, would jump back in? I guarantee, I mean, and I've been there before, where I've had to, where I've left the business, but I've been offered to come back again when I've seen value there, that I've jumped back. So, and the great thing about it is that you then get to choose, because forgive my puppy. There are situations when you have people that actually this has been an opportunity to remove people from the business that you don't want back. Okay, and I've seen that a lot, and that's fine. Okay, but for those that you want to have back in your business, I think that was a real honourable and smart way of managing that process. And incidentally, that person that took that role on to unemployed is now still in the business, but acting as their recruiter internally, which I also think is quite a nice win from that experience as well.
Fabulous.
So yes, Sarah, completely agree.
Chris Hughes, have you got any take on it with your wide experience of different businesses?
I mean, yeah, it was some really interesting material there. I feel that I've read it in 100 business books, so I'm really interested in knowing more about engagement multiplier. If it's something you've taken on, Mike, it must have some value. What exactly is it?
We'll come to it. We'll finish off there. Just explain
Okay.
about it. But just in terms of the, I mean, if what you know, you've built and sold your own business. And what would you say from looking at your and the advice as an advisor now to many businesses? What would you say is the most important of those 7 C's?
Without doubt, courage.
Yes, really.
The courage to take, and I love what I'm hearing about Mark and David, the courage to fundamentally change your business, and the courage to totally pivot, the courage to set out in a totally new direction. And what I'm seeing in terms of people I'm working with at the moment is those that are hanging on to the old model are struggling. Those that are looking to have the courage to change and pivot are those that I think have a real chance of coming out of this as winners.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think it is tough because people will always hold on to what they're comfortable with. It's the old comfort zone that's saying. It's Alan was sharing with us earlier at the beginning about for example, the holiday parks are actually going through a boom period at the moment because of staycations. I just automatically assumed they'd be dead, but it's just you've just got to embrace and think in terms of the customer and what it's going to bring and how to engage with it. To Alan, you got anything else?
I mean, just one question, Mike. What business is David Wise in? David, what business are you in?
Yeah, we were in live event delivery, specializing in events in museums, palaces and galleries. So, we went from a very full March diary on the 12th, our last event, and then it absolutely cut off to 0. Our venues are closed. And we've now pivoted. We have 2 green screen virtual event platforms and a fully virtual product as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so conscious of the time, then let's just hand over back to Stephen so you can just explain a bit more about the engagement multiplier system that we're using.
Great, and thank you everybody for your contribution there. It was I found that really useful, so thank you. So first of all, David, Chris, coming back to you, who are we? Okay, so you're right. Nothing I'm sharing with you today is new, by the way. We've not tried to reinvent the wheel. We're just providing evidence. So think of our product as the structure and the framework to be able to understand how you're being perceived, okay, or how the business is performing. So first of all, we talked about the 7 C's. One thing that I'm going to send out to you, or Mike will send to you after this presentation, is there's this very simple self-reflection one-pager that I'm going to send out to you. My recommendation is please do this individually. You'll see on the left-hand side, it'll have each of those 7 C's listed, then a bit of an explanation of what that looks like. But now you have the opportunity. We'll give yourself a score out of 10. How would you score yourself across each of those 7 C's? But also in the next box, where would you like to be in 90 days time? So, and then in the following box, write up to 3 actions that you can take to achieve that. Like I said before, I've never met in my history, and I'm certainly not in that category either, a leader that will be owning each of those 7 C's. There's always an opportunity to improve. So be honest with yourself, fill out this one pager, and just think about what actions, what steps you can take within the next 90 days to do that. But whilst you're filling that in, think about these 4 questions. So how would you score yourself? We're going to find out. Go do the one pager. How would you score your leaders? We'll just hold on to that thought for a moment. How would your leaders score themselves? So those of you that have leadership teams. And how would your employees score their leaders? And this is where I want to help you further. For those of you that know us, you would have heard us talk since March. We chose to put purpose before profits as a business. And we've stayed true to that throughout lockdown, which ultimately means we've made our platform completely free for anybody to utilize globally, particularly those that we serve that fit into our right fit audience. But we've also done another number of things to help, again, companies to navigate these unusual times. So with that being said, I'd like to invite every single one of you, doesn't matter whether you've got 5 people or 5,000 people in your teams, I don't know the size of your organizations, please use our technology. This is the technology that Michael utilizes at X5. And you'll see in the center of the screen here, there's a red box that I've allocated. One of the 6 core dimensions that we measure is leadership. And those of you that are business owners, what this will help you capture is this is your perception on leadership on a scale of 0 to 100. This is how leaders perceive themselves and those that they report into. And then this is everybody else. Now, for those of you that have larger organizations, we will also break this down by various levels and groups. So you might have finance, sales, HR, whatever it might be. Or I think, Mark, you've got a number of locations. So immediately what you'll be able to see by each of your dealerships is how your dealer principals are performing, but also how your managers are performing as perceived by your teams. And that becomes really fascinating, because if you're like this owner and your perception on leadership is here, if all of a sudden you get a score here from employees which is much lower, well, which of my teams are pulling that score down? And the platform will help you to identify that. There are other wins as well. We score purpose, we score you as owners, and there are other things here, but I can go through that in more detail. So something I want to share with you, and I've mentioned a bit of this through the presentation. This is something that, again, our founder and that we've been saying ever since lockdown. We cannot predict the future. That remains true, okay? But if we can accurately learn from the past, we can confidently act in the present and thrive into the future. With accurate data, you can close the perception gap. Engagement Multiplier is all about capturing data and providing structure and framework for you to do this consistently throughout the year. Not once a year, not every 3 years, because the world, as we now know, moves quicker than that. We recommend 90-day cycles. So please, I invite you to use our technology at no cost. There's no trap with this. I'm not Amazon. I'm not going to take your credit card. There's no automatic subscription with us, okay? Please use it. I'll even help you to get set up. I'll even help you go through the data, because I want that data to help you to accurately learn from what's happened in your business, particularly right now as we end 2020 and we go into 2021. So hopefully it will help you to make those right decisions so that you and your teams can thrive moving into the future. So again, the leadership perception gap, just a reminder of what it is. It's the perception that you have on yourself and on your leaders, but it's also how everybody else perceives you as leaders. And that's the interesting piece, because remember, perceptions doesn't mean it's true, but you have an opportunity to even reflect on that yourself and think, well, can I improve or change their perception? Business Toolkit, again, I won't go to that into too much detail, but just also know that in response to this current climate, there are 4 modules that we've created to help business really innovate through what's been a challenging time. We've got working from home and winning surveys that ultimately enable those that have remote team workers to understand what adjustments you need to make to enable your teams to thrive whilst working from home. Not necessarily engagement related, but engagement is definitely part of it. And that's still true today, because remote working is going to stay, by the way. Leadership perception gap is the piece that we've just covered off. There's emerging stronger, because we've had to go through this rapid change. It's about capturing those insights so we can continue to, what are those innovations so they stay true. So again, think about that consistency. Think about, as leaders, how you reacted in March, how much of that's still true today? Well, what have we done really well? Let's capture that so that continues beyond. But also, one thing that I wanted to mention to you was this kickstarting innovation. I can promise you, employee fatigue is now kicking in, okay? Doesn't matter how good you've responded to this climate. If you've got employees that are still working remotely, where you're still innovating and making changes and transforming, employees are getting tired. The weather has changed. The nights are coming darker sooner. You're not sat in the garden having a beer anymore, creating a tan. You're sat inside, huddled around the fireplace, and it's pitch black outside, and it's cold, and it's wet, and it's damp. So this kickstarting innovation is about re-energizing your team in a very different way, to get them thinking again about the future of the business, get them excited about what 2021 has to offer for them and for the organization. So for those of you that are interested, again, we're offering you free access to our entire platform. In terms of next steps with that, I'd recommend we have a quick 30-minute conversation individually, just to understand what you're looking to achieve from it, so we can make sure you're set up for success, because again, we can modify it to make sure it's right for you. You'll have a dedicated member of our team that will help you go live, and I'll even talk you through your results to make sure you get the value from it. If at the end of that process you do not want to continue any further, then don't worry. If you want to move forward from that point, you have to physically subscribe. There is no catch to this, just to remind you. So Mike, I like to keep things really simple. So I've asked Mike to launch a poll here, and this is to help me understand which of you that I need to be speaking to first. And under this poll, you're going to have 3 options. Option 1 is yes, I'd like to launch a free survey. Option 2 is maybe I'd like to have a conversation, which I'd welcome with any of you. And number 3, just be honest, it's not for me. And that's absolutely fine, by the way. It just means that I know who I need to focus on in terms of contacting quickly, given the time of year. So if I could ask each of you just to tick one of those 3 boxes. And Mike, I'm going to have to ask you to tell me when we've got 100%, because I have no idea when these come through.
I'll just share some feedback of our. We've just used it for 1 quarter, this system, and 66% of our team took part. So it's disappointing 34% didn't, but I spoke to Steve, and that's quite normal. There's obviously a bit of suspicion, but it's totally anonymous. That's one of the things I love, is that you do not know who has said what. You might suspect, but you do not know. We were getting some quite blunt statements, and so the choice for us as leaders is to analyze and to read into, is that just somebody getting something off their chest, or is it something that this is fundamental? But obviously it's the trends that are really important. So our second one is at the beginning of January, and that's going to be interesting to see, where we said, look, if we can get a 1% improvement. So we were marked in all the different classes, and we had an overall mark. So we were assessed as leaders. Our leadership team were assessed. We were given feedback as owners. So all the different aspects of there, in terms of all the different aspects of leaderships in the 7 C's. So we were all assessed on it all. And basically our goal is to try and get a 1% improvement on there. And then we're at least going positively. So previously we used to do stuff weekly, and people got tired of it, and it became a chore. So I love this idea of, actually, because when I first listened to this, I said, yeah, okay. I was a bit cynical about it because I've been there before. But actually, quarterly, I like that idea. People have a chance to influence us and to give feedback. And so from that point of view, I'm new to it. So I'm using it and waiting to see what the positive results are. So far, so good.
It's interesting, something you said there about, like I said this at the very beginning of the presentation, engagement multiplier, this isn't your light touch employee satisfaction type tool. In fact, I hate the word satisfaction. I'd hate to be satisfied with my role. It would be the most disappointing thing in the world, given the amount of time I spend at work. But this is about helping you as owners and leaders understand the truth. What is really going on inside your business? How do people really feel? What ideas of innovation and growth have they got, of where we can make these changes and drive new initiatives? But it's about a consistent approach. 90-day cycles, we see that as being enough time to impact change, but not too often where it becomes an irritant to you or the employee. But also, one of the unique features within our platform, and I guess one of the real reasons why we cut through, is that I'm sure you've all done surveys before where you might get an employee say, improve communication. Well, that's great. Is that a WhatsApp group? Is that a monthly newsletter? Is that a team meeting with my boss? Is that a daily meeting with my line manager? What is it they're looking for? So with our platform, whilst it's completely anonymous, you can engage in 2-way anonymous dialogue. So you can respond to that comment and go, wow, thanks for your comment. Incredibly important to hear this feedback. As a reminder, this platform's completely anonymous. I have no idea who you are. Can you help? You mentioned communication. Is there something specific you're looking to communicate? How often would you like to see that? What would that communication look like? I mean, you get the opportunity to get the clarity, and that's what moves the dial. Because that act of responding also demonstrates that you have an equal voice. We are listening, we do care, we're willing to act. And that's what empowers employees to get behind, again, the purpose and the direction of the business. So there's a lot of methodology that sits behind the system as well. But yeah, it's just a very simple structure and framework to get that, almost that heat press, that health check every 90 days to ultimately decide where you need to focus as a business and be laser focused consistently over the year. Mike, has everybody ticked a box?
We got 76%, so we got 19 of our members have ticked the box. So that's it. So thanks everybody I hope this has actually given you something to think about. Christmas is ahead of us. I hope we will all have a chance to relax. You certainly realize so many people have just gone through this without taking much time off. So fatigue definitely is in there, both from a mental fatigue probably more than physical fatigue, but a lot of people have just carried on working because they haven't taken the time to relax. So a lot of us have got built up holiday in the system, and we've got to take that chance to recharge our batteries over Christmas. So I wish you well. Hope it goes well, and then January we'll return to leadership, thinking ahead and why leaders eat last. So will be our topic. Learning from Michael Geetson's talk last week with this one with our 7 C's, and then we'll listen to Simon Sinek, his cynical view of leadership and why leaders eat last. So have a great time, have a really happy Christmas, and let's hope that we have a healthy first 2021 and soon prosperous again 2021. So
thank you, Mike.
Okay, have a great day, everybody.
Nice.
Everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye then. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Bye.